Kia ora koutou, it's Lockie, Kiwi Vegan Grandad, just going outside, and let's just have a look at what a beautiful day it is. It's a beautiful day because it is December, and December in New Zealand is the start of summer, and also December is for Christmas. So we're going to do something Christmassy today, which we generally had as part of our Christmas dinner every year. Okay, let's go inside and do some cooking. Kia ora koutou. Okay, so today we're going to be making a trifle, which is very much a summer dish which suits the New Zealand Christmas. This is very much a veganised version of my mother's trifle. Yeah, if you Google trifle, you'll see some really quite elaborate things. This is not so much for looking at, it's actually for eating. Now, my mother used to buy sponge cake, just some plain sponge as a base. It's a bit harder to buy vegan sponge. So we're going to make a cake. Now, a cake is just as good as a sponge in my opinion, and makes it nice and solid, which is, you know, sponge is a little bit soft and oozy. And we're going to be using these ingredients here. 1.5 cups of flour, and we are going to be using a 1 tablespoon of vanilla and teaspoon of salt. Now you want 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. So this is a vanilla flavored one, and this is what they call a natural vanilla extract. To be honest, I'm going to be using this up because we're not going to be tasting that vanilla that much. Okay, so let's get going. So we mix in the dry ingredients. Of course, I forgot one thing, which is the baking soda, and we need a teaspoon of that as well, otherwise it's not going to rise. Lucky I remember. And we'll just mix that through. Okay, now the liquids. So we're on a tablespoon of vinegar, and a tablespoon of the vanilla. So we can see that it's ready for the milk. So we're going to end up with a sort of a runny-ish batter. Now this is a just a plain vanilla cake. You could buy a cake in a box type thing at the supermarket. This is quite a bit cheaper, I think, to do it your own way. But you could also get a gluten-free cake in a box that you can make up, which is fine. I found when I did a gluten-free version of a trifle, it was slightly grittier, so I would, unless you have to have gluten-free, I would just go for using ordinary flour. You can see that that is nice and runny. Now, you don't have to be too fussy with the cake and how it's going to look, because it's just an ingredient within the trifle. So I've lined a cake tin with some baking paper, just to make it easier. That's rather sweet. So we have the cake. Well, it's at the right temperature, so we will throw it in. And we're going to leave it there for half an hour. But I'll probably check it at 25 minutes. Well, another day in paradise. I guess we better go and have a look at that cake, and it's getting close to the 30-minute mark. Okay, I've given it the full 30 minutes, and we'll stick a skewer in, and it comes out clean, so I'm hoping that that is all good. Right, so I'm going to leave that cool, then we'll get on to the next stage. Right, we're all set for phase 2. I've allowed the cake to cool, so we're going to start assembling the trifle into this bowl. Okay, so what we're going to do is just slice it open like so. So we've got two halves. Doesn't matter if it breaks up, because we're going to be pulling it apart anyway. So that's the inside of the cake, which is really nice. Now, it doesn't matter whether you have one of these large cookie cutters. This is just because it fits in the center of the bowl. But we will, okay, that broke, but it doesn't matter. And we have it in the center of the bowl like that. Then we're just going to put the other bits around the edges, and we will cut them to make them fit. Okay, so we've lined the bowl with the cake, and I've strained 2 cans of peaches, what do they call them? Sliced peaches. And I am just going to position these around on the cake, line it with these peaches as well. Put them around the sides. Okay, we've got a few left which we can use in phase 3. Next step is to use some vegan jelly, or jello I think they call it in some other countries. Okay, so I've just started it. Yep, this is a peach flavour. First of all, a third of a cup of cold water, and just mix that so that it's mixed in. Then we want 1 1/3 cups of boiling water. Now I've just boiled this water. And 1 cup. Make sure that is mixed in together. Now normally, you just let that go cold and it will set, but we want it to actually set into the cake. So we are going to pour it around the edges first, so that it has a chance to soak into the cake. And it's already flowing down to the bottom anyway. So that is the end stage of phase 2. I'm going to put some cling film over the top, put it in the fridge so that the jelly will set. Okay, we're getting ready for phase 3 of the operation, which is basically making some custard. I'm going to make it a litre. I don't know whether I'll need that much, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe just a little bit to make sure, and 2 of sugar. Okay, so we've got a litre of plant milk here, and we're just going to pour some in, enough to make this into a paste. So basically to make sure what we have there is not going to go all lumpy. I'm going to put this in the microwave and it'll probably bubble up, so I'm going to have to watch it, but I don't have a larger jug to do it with. Right, so it's going to take a little while to heat up, so every now and then make sure you give it a stir to ensure that the custard is well mixed together. It's been cooking for a while and it's starting to thicken up, which is what we want. So I certainly should have done this in a larger container. Never mind. Okay, I chickened out and got another bowl and divided it up because I knew it was going to expand. Right, so it's thickened up, it's been brought to the boil, and it's ready for the trifle. Am I going to use all of it? Do I make too much? Okay, so we can see that the jelly has set, which is great. And we are going to pour this again around the edges. Yes, I think I made too much. Never mind. So I've filled the crater with the custard. Okay, so the custard is filling the crater, and we're going to just use these and place them on the top. They can set into the custard. And what am I going to do with this leftover custard? Well, I might just have to eat it. Get rid of it. Which won't be too much of a chore. We'll put this back into the fridge and let it set for now. And we have one more stage, which will happen pretty much as just before we get to eat it. Okay, so this is Yuki. She has just come from home. So this is Yuki. She's a Japanese student learning English in New Zealand, and she's just got back from studying or doing tests.
Doing tests, yes.
Yes. Okay, so she's going to help. So the one last thing that we need to do is beat some cream. One way of doing it is to use coconut cream. You just tip off any liquid that's on it, and it's fairly easy to beat it up. Pays to check the tin. Get a tin that doesn't sound too liquid when you buy it. But we're not going to do that today. We are actually going to be using a thickened plant cream, which is really the only thing that is in the shops in Dunedin anyway. Right, so whoops, we'll tip some in. Maybe we'll do all of it. Right. Go for it.
The max speed?
Yeah, fast speed. Not too bad?
Yep. Okay.
Whoops. Yeah. Oh, you just put them in there, that's fine. Okay, so here we have the trifle, which you can see that the custard has set, and we will just put on some of the cream. And I guess if you wanted to, you could put some chocolate hail on, or hundreds and thousands or something like that. But I think that's it for now. We'll put it back into the fridge, let it just the cream cool down a bit, and we'll have it for dinner a little bit later on. We don't just scrape the cream off the top, we go down the side and get right down to the bottom, and there.
Thank you. So, いただきます。
Wobbly.
This part is like really sweet.
Yes, the cake.
Cake part
custard.
is really sweet and still custard.
So do you think the custard is sweet too, or it's a little bit sweet, but not as sweet as the cake?
Not sweet as the cake, but yeah, still sweet, but not too sweet. So
Yeah,
I
because
really
it's
like
a cake, it is a bit sweeter rather than a sponge.
Right. Cool.
I really like cream.
Ko tae tātou ki te wā mo ētahi kupu Māori. Time for some Māori words. Let's learn a little bit of Māori. He rite tō traiwhara ki tāku. He pai ake pēr tō traiwhara. Tuhia o whakaro ki roto ki ngā pitupitu kōrero. He rite tō traiwhara ki tāku. He pai ake pēr tō traiwhara. Tuhia o whakaro ki roto ki ngā pitupitu kōrero. He rite tō traiwhara ki tāku. Is your trifle the same as mine? He pai ake pēr tō traiwhara. Maybe your trifle is better. Tuhi o whakaro ki roto ki ngā pitupitu kōrero. Write your thoughts in the comments. Kia ora, kia pai tō kirihi me te tauhou. Hei kona.